Hi everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't tuned into our previous lessons, I suggest that you go back and do so. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, my name is Lauren. I work for a group called Compass Mark in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We provide a program called Leaders of Future Generations to a couple schools in our area. And we've been teaching these lessons because we are all at home, so hopefully you've been tuning in. Also, please feel free to share these videos with anyone else that you think might enjoy them, or anyone that you know has kids at home that could benefit from learning and participating at home. Okay, so today's lesson is on personal values. So first we're going to look at a quote, and our quote today comes from the king himself, Elvis Presley. And Elvis said, "Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do." Okay, we'll come back to that later. So what is a personal value? First, let's define the word value. Value means importance, worth, or usefulness of something. So when we think about value, we often think about money, because we know that money has value, and each coin has a different value. We know that a penny is 1 or a dime is 10. Okay, learning that kind of value. But a value is something that we regard as important, and a value can be something about ourselves as well. Your values are things that you believe are important in the way that you live and the way that you work. They should determine your priorities, and deep down, they're probably what we use to measure to tell if our life is going the way that we want it to. When the things that you do and the way that you behave match your values, life is usually going pretty good. You're satisfied, you're feeling rather content. But when these things don't align, so what's happening in your life or what you're doing doesn't match your values, sometimes it feels wrong. You're not really sure why. Okay, this can be a real source of unhappiness in our lives. We keep going about doing something that we think fits what we want, and then we realize that it's actually against our values. So this is why making a conscious effort to identify what your values are is so important. So first, where do we get our values? So we don't just wake up one day and have them. We're not born with certain values either. Okay, so a lot of our values come from our environment or the way that we grew up, the people that we were around when we grew up. So maybe parents, guardians, grandparents, brothers and sisters, the friends that we hang out with, our peers. But also just, when you hear a story, when you learn things in school, we all interpret them different ways. And the way that you interpret them or the values that you see in that story could just be from your own mind, because we're all different. So you have a huge impact on your own values too. It's not just what other people want. And to be clear on that too, you might have different values than your family members or your friends or your classmates. And that's good, that's fine, okay? You're allowed to value things as you see fit. So personal values could be qualities, such as things that we want to be or we want other people to be as well. So like being honest could be a quality if you are a value. If you think honesty is really important in all aspects of life, then maybe honesty is a value that you care about. Being fair, being confident, being social, having lots of friends, or being popular. There might be aspirations that you may or may not reach for, like being famous, or being wealthy, or being successful, or helping other people, or being a leader. They could also be things that you want, such as owning a car, or owning a house, getting good grades, getting a good job. A value is any aspect of ourselves or our lives that we consider important. And values are usually fairly stable, yet they don't have strict limits or boundaries. So as you move through life, your values could change. And that's fine too. We experience things, we grow, we evolve, we develop, we meet new people, we have new experiences. All of this can affect your values and change what you care about. For example, let's say you start a career or a job and it's very successful and you're making money and you have great status, and that might seem like a big priority. But what if your values in life that you really cared about was having a family and being with your family? Then your work and your life start to conflict, okay? Or if you wanted to do really well in school, but you also care about going to parties and being popular, whatever it might be, then those things might conflict, and you might need to remind yourself, where are my values? Do I want to be successful and have good grades? Then that's where I need to put my attention, because that's my value. As your definition of success changes, so do your personal values. This is why keeping in touch with your values is a lifelong exercise, something that we continue to go back on and reevaluate as we progress through life. So today I'm going to walk you through a couple ways to help identify for yourself what your values are. So the first step is to think about times when you felt the happiest. So think back on your life and try to identify times in your life or events that have happened to you where you felt the most happy, whether with your personal life or your school life. Think to yourself, what were you doing during that time? And were you with anyone? And if so, who? The next step is to identify times when you felt the proudest of yourself. So when in your life did you feel the most like, I'm awesome, I'm doing great, I am super proud of who I am, okay? Why did you feel proud? And did other people share in your pride? Was anyone else there to share in that with you? The third step is to identify times when you were the most fulfilled and satisfied with your life. So I know we're kids and we've got a lot of life left to live, but we can still think back on times in our life when we felt the most satisfied or most fulfilled, most at ease. What need or desire of yours was fulfilled? What was it about that time that made you feel the most satisfied? And how or why did this experience give your life meaning? Step 4 is to determine your top values. So based on your experiences of happiness, pride, and fulfillment, why was each experience truly important to you and memorable? I want you to try to come up with 10 values that mean the most to you. So 10 things that mean the most to you from those experiences. Once you have your list of 10, you're going to prioritize them. This step is probably the most difficult because you'll have to take a deep look at yourself and deep inside yourself to try to make a decision to narrow it down. Okay, you'll have to choose between solutions that may satisfy different values. This is when you know which value is more important to you. Finally, you want to reaffirm your values. Check your top priority values and make sure that they fit with your life and your vision for yourself. Ask yourself, do these values make me feel good about myself? Am I proud of these top 3 values? Do these values represent things that you would support even if your choice wasn't popular? That's a big one. So even if you're going against the crowd or you're not doing what other people your age are expecting you to do, is it because you're following your values? And if it is, are you willing to stand up for that value above being popular or being a part of that crowd or being accepted? That's how you know that it's really important to you. So I'm going to go into more detail about that during our at-home activity and give you some a lengthy list of values to draw from in case you're kind of stuck coming up with some. So don't fret too much right now if you're like, oh, I can't think of any. Okay, so yeah, we'll get to that. So when you consider your values in decision making, you can be sure to keep your sense of integrity and know that you're doing what is right and approach decisions with confidence and clarity. Okay, you also know that you're doing what's best for you currently and for your future happiness and satisfaction. When we make value-based decisions, so we know that I'm choosing this option because this suits my values and I believe in honesty, so I am going to admit to cheating on that test because I need to be honest and that was against my values and it made me feel bad. I need to be honest, set it straight, and do this even if I get in trouble, even if the consequences happen, because I'm holding my value in regard. And when we do that, we're going to feel better about the choices that we made because we followed what we believed in. Okay, so when it comes to being a leader, our personal values are very important. They help influence the direction that we want to go. But first we have to understand what's motivating us to do so. So what is motivation? Motivation is the reason behind what you're doing. When we better understand what motivates us, we can better decide what direction we want to go in. And that will help influence our decisions as an individual, but also as a leader. Sometimes we come across situations that we call dilemmas that are not always easy to decide, especially if it's dealing with an ethical problem. And ethics is being able to make a decision that is right, or at least most right in any kind of situation. If you come across a trying time when you have to decide one way or another. You make that pro-con list and you go through our decision-making process, stop, think, act, reflect. Sometimes we have to kind of stop and remember what our values are too, and hold true to that. When you do something that's against your truth, that's against who you are and your beliefs and your values, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. It's going to make you feel bad about that choice that you made. Even if it had okay consequences for other people, you still might not feel totally satisfied because you went against what you believed in. Okay, so it's really important to understand our values. It's going to influence you as a person. It's going to influence you as a leader. And leaders who are really strong in their values, but can also compromise or at least hear out other people's values, that's going to make you a really strong leader. Being able to understand that this is something important to you. There might be other things that are important to other people too, and they're worth hearing, they're worth talking about and discussing. It's going to show that you have a lot of respect for other people and that you have a lot of respect for yourself too. So let's take a look again at the King's quote. Elvis Presley said, "Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do." Okay, I really like this quote. I think it's pretty poetic. It's cool. So I think Elvis is trying to tell us that even if we can't identify for ourselves what our values are, they're evident in everything that we do. So the choices that you make, the way that you act in different situations, or when you come across those challenging or dilemma times, the way that you decide to come out of that says a lot about what you value and who you are and what you believe in. So the decisions that we make, the way we act towards ourselves, but also the way that we act towards others, and the person that we want to be, all express what we believe in. So if you really take a hard look at yourself, your values are going to become clear to you. And we are all individuals, so we have different values from each other too, which is great, but we leave them all over everything that we do. And sometimes other people might see your values more clearly than you do because they're the ones observing you. So if you really are stuck and you can't come up with what your values might be, it might be worth asking someone around you or a close friend what they think you value. Okay, so a couple discussion questions for you today. Number 1, what are your top 3 values? Number 2, how do those values shape who you are? And number 3, how do those values shape who you are as a leader? Okay, so for your at-home activity, we're going to walk through the value activity that I explained throughout the whole lesson here. So in the info section below this video, you'll see a big list of different values. I want you to pick out 10. In no particular order, just pick out your top 10. And if you have a value that's not listed on this sheet, that's fine too. You don't have to just follow my list. Then choose 2 that you could live without from your top 10 and cross them out. So now you're down to 8. Then look at your 8 and choose 2 more that you could live without and cross them out. Now you're down to 6. Then choose 2 more that you could live without and cross them out. Now you're down to 4. Finally, choose 1 that you could live without and cross it out. This is going to be hard. It's going to be hard to give up one thing that you care about or one thing that you value to see what's left. But there you have it. When you're done, there's your top 3. Your top 3 values that you believe in or that matter the most to you. And that does not mean that the other 7 don't matter to you. They do. But when we want to evaluate what our top 3 are, there they are. This would be a really interesting activity to do like every year or some kind of rotating system so that you can see how your values might change and evolve as you go. It's important because the choices that you make in your life are going to be steered in that direction or should be so that they match your values. Well, I really hope that you've enjoyed this lesson today on personal values. I hope you do the at-home activity. I would really love to hear what your top 3 are. And if you ask me, I'll happily share my top 3. Please comment in the section below or, reach out to me in some kind of way. I would love to hear from you. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you are well, that you are staying safe, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.